Two guys not related, yet somehow are given the same name. It's time for the Two Daves podcast, where we'll answer the age-old question, are two Daves better than one? And now, here's Dave and Dave.
You heard it right. It's the Two Daves podcast. Welcome to the Two Daves Nation. And don't forget to subscribe or share this podcast with your friends. And I would say even with your enemies, depending on if you like this or not. We're slowly but surely building our audience and would love you to be with us for the journey.
Yeah, and we are here today to prove wrong the commercial that told people, don't be a Dave, because I am Dave.
And I'm Dave, and this ain't tacos, and we'll tell you that story later on.
Yeah, we're here together once again to discuss, well, really whatever we feel like discussing. And, we're fully aware that it may put even some of you to sleep, but we're going to discuss it anyway.
That's right. You know, we're not too bright at this, but we're willing to, try and go on half a wattage instead of full wattage. So let's try this, Dave. I'm sure you've been glued to the TV watching the sporting events with no fans, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's our house has been filled with electricity and anticipation.
Well, if you know Dave, he's not too into the sporting events at his house.
Yeah, I'm just not a sports fan.
It's all right. All right. Not much to watch anymore anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of weird with no fans there, isn't it?
Yeah. That's where you get a lot of the, I guess the electricity comes from that, and there's a home field advantage, and but now it's all piped in and it's all fake stuff, and it's weird watching it.
You think that's difficult for the players to play with no fans?
I think it is. Not that this is a sports talk show, but I was listening to one of the guys, the announcers, announcing the Iowa Hawkeye game, and he was talking about there's no home court advantage, and it is weird. So they have to muster up all of that energy from their bench.
Yeah, I've often wondered how many of those players really enjoy the game as much as they enjoy the notoriety and the prestige and the fame. And it's hard to, if they lean towards the latter, I imagine it's really hard to play when there's no fans cheering them on.
Yeah, I mean, I think every sports person loves to play in front of a crowd. They like that.
Sure.
It's just it's disappointing, a sporting event without fans. And speaking of that, Dave. You and I put together a list of kind of disappointments like that. What are some other things that would be considered a disappointment, like going to a sporting event and having no fans? So
yeah. Let's
go ahead and share this list, no matter if it's funny or not.
I'm sure it isn't, but go ahead, Dave.
Okay, good. Well, first of all, I would say this, going to a sporting event with no fans is like watching swamp people with no subtitles.
Yeah. Now that, I see your point there. Yep.
By the way, I'm a swamp people fan. I don't know about you. I don't even know if it's on anymore.
I thought you were one of the stars.
Yeah. My wife has to do subtitles for me all the time. Oh, well. The next one I said, it's like Arnold Schwarzenegger's catchphrase being changed from "I'll be back" to "I know you are, but what am I?"
I know you are, but what am I?
Now, you do know where that phrase comes from, don't you?
I know you are, but what am I? Isn't that Pee Wee Herman?
That's correct. Correct.
Yeah. I mean, somebody told me that.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I got one.
Okay.
Watching a sporting event with no fans is kind of like revisiting your childhood town, and the only thing people can remember about you is being that kid that never played sports and instead collected presidential buttons.
This is like writing your autobiography, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't want to be too specific, but that may possibly be a little too close to home. I don't know.
Is this a story that really did happen or what?
Anyway, I got another one.
All right, good.
Visiting or watching a sports event. What are they called? Games?
Yeah.
Watching a game without any fans is kind of like being told that dancing is a way of expressing yourself, and then suddenly you realize that the only dance you know is the electric boogaloo.
I haven't seen that in a long time.
Yeah, well, you know what? You just need to look for my autobiography.
Yeah, I will. I'm sure it'll be under illustration 1. So
yeah, that's it.
I have one last one. It's like being told that you have a type A personality, but you grow up not caring about life, and then you remember you don't have a type A personality. They told you have type A blood.
Yeah, that would definitely be a difference. Yep. Yeah.
It would.
Yeah. Can we move on?
Yeah, let's do, please.
Yeah.
Feels like deja vu.
Yeah. I've been looking at the news lately, and not at the mainstream news, because to be honest with you, I'm so tired of the actual news that's out there. So I went in search of some odd news stories, some things that aren't covered by CNN or Fox or ABC, Matter of fact, they probably aren't even covered by your local newspaper. But I found some interesting things out there online that I thought would just kind of be interesting to share.
You say these are odd stories.
Odd stories, yeah, odd stories.
So now are we going to read more about your autobiography in this or not?
Dave, this is quickly going to become the One Dave podcast.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Let's see. Here's one. Soap opera actor. This is the headline. Soap opera actor finds python slithering on his home's toilet. Yeah, apparently a British soap opera actor found a 4-foot long snake slithering across his toilet seat and had to call animal control. Would that bother you? Are you afraid of snakes?
Oh, I would not live in that house again, I think, if that happened.
Snakes don't bother me. But if I found a 4-foot python slithering on my toilet seat, I'm sure that probably I would be looking for a different place to live that day. Yeah.
Dave, I got to tell you, I'm not only afraid of snakes, but mice.
Oh, mice. Now, yeah.
I remember.
Mice. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, spiders and mice don't bother me, but I tell you, or snakes and mice don't bother me. But I am petrified of spiders of all sizes and bats. I hate spiders and bats.
It's kind of funny, isn't it? How we're kind of afraid of those things. We're way bigger than them, but I remember one day. This is not part of the odd story. This is just a dumb story. Okay.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
My wife and I had moved to Iowa. We were in our second year of marriage and or third year of marriage and second year of ministry together. And we were at this house, and there was we were not too far from the field, and there was field mice in our house. So my wife grew up on the farm, and I did not. So we knew where the mouse was, and it had been in the living room. So I decided I'm going to put a skillet, so it has to run alongside the skillet, and then I'm going to have a can that's going to block it, and then when it realizes it can't go through there, it's going to come back out, and I'm going to throw a knife at it. Well, so anyway, here, sure enough, there goes the mice and going in, and it hit the can. It came back out. I threw the knife at it. It missed it, and I'm like, I'm petrified. So I grabbed the can of corn that I had, threw it at the mouse, and killed it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, you told a mouse story. I better tell a bat story.
Yeah, I do.
many years ago, we were living in Iowa, and we had a bat in our house. And I'm told that if you have only one bat in your house, it's a fluke thing. It isn't that your house has bats. It probably came in on your coat or something, which that just absolutely
Oh man,
really creeps me out to think that it
yeah.
may have come in with me that night. But anyway, we had gone to bed, my wife and I had, and I decided that I had a late night craving for a bowl of cereal. So I got up and went into the kitchen and poured myself a bowl of cereal and I took the lid off the milk. I was getting ready to pour the milk, and I saw something fluttering behind me. I thought, well, that's a big moth. Oh, it wasn't a moth. And so I was yelling, okay, and I had the gallon jug of milk, and instead of setting it down, I ran with it into my bedroom, into the bed, pulling my sheets up, and Nita's going, what are you doing? Why didn't you set the milk down? So, yeah, I guess we just all do crazy things when we're scared, but yeah.
Wow. I don't think those will go into the Manly Man magazines, will they? Those stories.
Probably not. I got another odd story. Canadian police officer was investigating the report from a witness that called in and said that they'd found a severed foot at the side of the road. Now that's quite a find, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so the Canadian police officer was investigating this report, and his discovery was considerably less alarming than the initial report. It was actually a discarded mannequin's foot. So
how would you like to have been that person finding that?
oh my, can you imagine that? That could almost be made into a movie, kind of like Lady on a Train, where you think you see something,
or my left foot.
Yeah, my left foot. Yeah.
Never mind. Do you have any?
By the way, this one, I love this story. The organizers of the No Pants Subway Ride,
oh boy,
which is an annual January event. Have you heard of this?
No.
It's the No Pants Subway Ride. It's held every January at public transport in more than a dozen cities worldwide. I'm talking United States cities, European cities, wherever. Worldwide, there's a date in January where it's No Pants Subway Ride. People are encouraged to ride the subway in their city with no pants on. Well, the news story is that the organizers for the No Pants Subway Ride have determined that, and they have announced that the 2021 ride has been canceled due to COVID. That's just very interesting. People run around in public with no pants are afraid of getting COVID. I don't know. Just interesting thought.
That just proves that people's masks are being made out of their own underwear, I believe. That's probably.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I have a Batman gator that someone gave me for Christmas this year. And I was wearing it one day at a restaurant, and my little grandson has a Batman mask because we both love Batman. And so we took a picture together, and a friend of mine said, "You know what? That looks exactly like a pair of underwear that I lost."
Underoos. Underoos.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This podcast is now being sponsored by Awkward Moments. Yeah. For that moment when you see someone walking towards you that you don't want to talk to. Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, like if it's your wife or something. But when you see somebody walking towards you and you don't want to talk to, so you pretend you're talking on your cell phone, and then it rings.
Yes.
Yeah. Awkward. Yeah, we all have them, man. Stop fighting them. Embrace them, because it's bound to happen to you sooner or later.
Thank you, Awkward Moments, for sponsoring this awkward podcast.
For sponsoring our lives.
Yes. Oh boy. In this podcast, if we ever get through it here, we're going to talk about how life can happen in such a way that it causes us to reprioritize what matters most. You know, I don't know about you, Dave, but you can get sucked up into the things of life so much that you really begin to forget what matters most, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There is so much drama
Yeah.
that we can get involved in, and especially if you're on social media, and who isn't, it's so easy to get just sucked into stuff that really, in the light of eternity, it doesn't matter.
Right. I think that's, you know, one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast. We want to laugh because sometimes we forget to laugh because we take life so seriously. Maybe we take ourselves so seriously. And sometimes serious things happen that have to get our attention. So we have a guest tonight, and I'm going to bring him on right now. Our guest is Ricardo Alves. He found himself serving a 4-month stint in the county jail for a crime he did not commit. And yet, while serving his time, it became an awakening in his life, both spiritually and relationally. I'm also privileged to be Ricardo's pastor. He plays drums at our church, and I taught him everything that he knows and everything that he doesn't know on that. And it's an honor that he agreed to come on our podcast, because everybody that comes on our podcast is taking a risk, Dave, right?
That's right.
So, anyway, we just welcome Ricardo. Hey, welcome, Ricardo, to the Two Daves podcast.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for inviting me. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Hey.
Hey, Ricardo, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, let's see. So many great things about me. Let's see.
Okay, that's enough. No, just kidding.
Perfect. Well, I'm 33 years old. I've been married to my wife, Tiara, for the past long 13 years. We have 2 wonderful children. Isaac is...
How many children total?
2. Yeah, we don't want any more than that. Yeah, but they're wonderful. Isaac is 13, and Josie is gonna be 9 next month.
Ah, nice.
Let's see. I'm a bridge builder. I work for a company. We build bridges. Pastor Dave said it. I'm the drummer at the church, and he taught me everything I know.
How long did that take?
It's been a couple years now.
Oh, okay.
He's just finishing his 3rd month of therapy, so that might say something.
Yeah, but it's been great.
Okay,
been great.
Well, when was it? What year did you serve your sentence?
Well, the incident happened in 2018, but I served my sentence at the end of 2019, in the beginning of 2020. So,
how long?
December.
How long were you sentenced for?
I was sentenced to 141 days.
Okay.
So, let's talk about how was your life prior to, I said, maybe jail time, but how about prior to the incident? How was your life prior to that?
Well, you know how everybody's talking about now, the 2020 is the worst year we ever had. Well, not for me. For me, it was 2018. 2018 was the worst year in my life. I mean, besides getting married, it was one of the worst. But even before then, even before 2018, I mean, it was getting bad. I mean, just to recap it, we had left the church, and we should have never left. I thought God wanted us to do something different with our lives, but that wasn't the case. Not much longer after we left the church, our lives started falling apart. I mean, my marriage started crumbling, and just things here and there just started slipping into our lives because we had left the protection of God. It was crazy. It was something surreal, but it was happening. And I mean, prior to the incident, I mean, I was doing pretty bad. I mean, I was at one point, my barber, he opened up a bar, and I went in to get my hair done and my beard trimmed and stuff. And he asked me if I wanted to be security for his bar, and I said, yeah. I mean, we were doing bad financially too, so I was like, hey, there's some money right there. Well, not long after that, I fell back. I started drinking again. I mean, I went far back, into my old life that I even started using again, and that was pretty bad. I mean, that was the worst. But I mean, it just felt like I was going backwards. I was going back into my old life, and should I say that I didn't care? I mean, I wasn't there. I wasn't there mentally. I wasn't there spiritually. But yeah. I mean, my spiritual life and my family, my spiritual condition, my family condition were literally flatlining.
I think it's interesting, Ricardo, that even though we might say we don't care and our condition was not good, God is constantly aware of what's going on.
Oh yeah. We don't realize it, but
yeah,
He's there.
Yeah, it's true. He doesn't leave us. We leave him, but he doesn't leave us. And that's interesting. So, let's talk about what made you in 2018, that incident. What made you want to go to that party where you were arrested?
Well, to be honest, I feel like God allowed it to happen. I really feel the God, I don't know. I mean, I just feel like he allowed it to happen. He had a plan. He knew where I was going. And when he figured out, he started changing what he wanted from me. And he knew how far I was going to get. He knew how far I was going to go. So he obviously, had a plan for me. But, we were doing bad. Me and my wife, we were, having problems. And I think that night me and my wife had a fight. We had an argument. And so I left the house. It was late at night, and I left, and I knew about this party. I knew some of the people that were there. So I decided to go, and I went. I showed up, and that's where it happened. I mean, that's where, I call it the great intervention. That's when it happened. But like we were saying, the whole time I was going backwards into my life, God was there, and he was there, the whole time. He was trying to stop me. Now I see it, that he was there and he was trying to stop me, because I can see how he was trying to stop me, but I didn't see it then. And a lot of the things that I did, the Spirit convicted me of it. And I knew I was doing wrong, and but I was too stubborn. I just kept going and going. But that's kind of how I know that God allowed it for it to happen.
What happened that night? What led to your arrest?
Well, there were some, a bunch of things that happened. I mean, I showed up and I wasn't invited, so I showed up and.
I know what that's like. I show up uninvited a lot. Yeah.
So yeah, I showed up uninvited, and I contacted some of the people that I knew, and they're like, "No, go away, blah blah blah. We don't want you here." I was like, "Why not? I'm fun, I'm cool, But I guess some people started getting mad. Some people ended up coming out of the house, and I thought, I was gonna go in. I thought they were gonna come out and tell me, hey. Well, I jumped out of the car, and no, it wasn't that. They were coming to confront me, and so we had a argument. I was already angry. I was already, mad at my wife. So it was kind of like just anger took over. But
you were a stick of dynamite, weren't you? That was already lit,
pretty much
about ready to go off.
Yeah, I mean, the fuse was getting really short.
Yeah.
But, I ended up, getting arguments with people and stuff like that, and it was all verbal. It wasn't really anything physical besides, me getting pushed I mean, my shirt was tore up because they were trying to drag me into my car. I was like, okay,
Wow.
I'm leaving. So I ended up taking off, and so I guess somebody had already called the cops. And when I pulled off, I turned on the first corner. I turned, and by the time I turned, the cops were behind me. So I was thinking, at that moment, I was like, if I pull over right here, they'll impound my car. So I went all the way home, and I didn't know what was going on. I thought, hey, I'm not gonna stop here. I'm gonna go home and park my car. Maybe I can talk to them then. But no, by the time we got to my house, and it was probably about 2 blocks away. By the time we got to the house, and I was just doing speed limit. I was maybe even under speed limit, so I wasn't really taking them on the chase or anything like that. But and it's even on the report, that I was, just driving cautiously, heading home. But by the time I got home, I guess the cop was already frustrated. So the whole ordeal with the cops happened there. Ended up getting arrested right there in front of my house. And then the other charges came in after I got arrested, after I got put in jail. I found those charges. I found out what they were the next day, pretty much. But it was an intense night. I mean,
Yeah. So then the state picked up your case, and they pressed charges against you, but your case never went to court. Is that correct?
Well, yeah. The next day, in the morning, it was a Saturday, so the next day of Sunday, I got to see a judge, and bright and early in the morning, I think it was like 8:00. So I got to see the judge, and he was telling me the charges that I had, and then he started telling me the ones that they added, and I was just, what are you talking about? He was like, yeah, these charges, they were thrown in there after you were already in here. And I was like, well, that never happened. Well, I was surprised. And so he ended up just telling me, well, that's what it is. It is what it is. You're going to have to find a lawyer. And the thing was that nobody pressed charges on me. But since they gave a statement, the state ended up picking up my case because, there were violent charges. So the state picked it up, and yeah, we never went to court. At the end of the day, pretty much I feel like I was railed to taking a plea bargain. My lawyer pretty much he straight up told me, he's like, if you go to court, you're going to lose, and you're going to be serving time, not in jail, but in prison. You're going to be in prison, and there'll probably be some immigration consequences on top of that because you will be getting charged with the most aggravated charges. But if we go for a plea bargain, we can lesser the charges and maybe get you something better. So it's pretty much what they did.
So you signed a plea bargain, which I'll just put a little side note of myself in there. That's just a lawyer's lazy way of not doing his job. And I hate to say that, but I will say that. And I've talked to people higher up that we've got a lot of lawyers that are just doing plea bargaining, and they're scaring their people into signing a plea bargain. And that's a major, major problem today because then you have to work to go into court, and they just don't do it. But they'll sure not be afraid to call you up and ask you for all kinds of money. That's for sure. So anyway, you signed a plea bargain, which consisted of what?
The plea bargain at the end I ended up catching 4 charges, and one of them was carrying weapons while intoxicated, The second one, it was OWI. The third one was assault causing mental illness. And the fourth one, I think it was harassment on the third.
Okay, so let's talk about all those. The first one was what now? What was your first one?
Was carrying weapons while intoxicated.
Okay, so were you intoxicated that night then?
No.
Yeah. And then you had a gun because you're a legal gun.
They said that I had a gun.
Yeah.
Well, I was a legal carrier prior to all this, but my permit had expired. Mm-hmm. So it was like a year, and I hadn't carried like a whole year.
Right.
But I'm known in town to carry a firearm, and I know these people knew me, so they know that I'm known to carry firearms because that's I exercise my Second Amendment, obviously, right. And so I'm known in town for carrying a firearm. I mean, my wife is known for carrying firearm. My dad's known for carrying firearm. I mean, but so we are legal to carry firearms.
You're not intoxicated. You don't. You're charged for OWI, and you don't have that.
See, the OWI was just thrown in there, and pretty much I had a email that my lawyer sent me because I told him I want every single email that you talk to the DA. I want them all. I want to know exactly what you're doing. And I mean, one of them was like, we can do this and we can do that. He was like, you can throw a OWI in there if you want. I was like, what? You gonna do what? And I confronted him. I was like, why would you do that? Well, we want to list your charges, and that's something that, just to get them to bite on this. I was like, okay, whatever,
We brought you on tonight, Ricardo, to share your story, but there's a lot of people that go through the same type of thing. And in our system today, we've allowed this kind of stuff. Just throw in whatever charge you want to, and then we'll just justify that. And, because we're scaring them into it, and then they want to use immigration stuff, and you had your permanent residency, but they're going to go after you because, we'll throw you back to Mexico, and we'll throw the key away, and you'll never be able to come back. And if you want to see your family, they'll have to move down there. And the list goes on and on and on. And it's very disheartening what's going on. So anyway, you signed this plea bargain, and we've talked about all this, but what about your wife? How did your wife and your family deal with all this that was going on?
In the beginning, it was hard. I mean, my wife was ready to leave me. She was ready to pack her bags and, see you later. My parents were disappointed. They were mad at me. My in-laws, there was disappointment. I feel ashamed. I was ashamed for what happened. I mean, the first thing I come out, and the first thing that I get on my Facebook is my mugshot. Like, it was like, I've never been to jail prior to all this. I've never been in jail. I've never been arrested. I mean, I had tickets, moving violations, stuff like that, but that's it, But, it was hard. I really literally thought it was all over for me. But God had a different plan. He had a different plan for me and my family. I mean, after me and my wife talked, we prayed, we read the word together, with the kids as a family. Things started changing. And this is within weeks of what happened. And God started working in us, and he started, changing the way we were seeing things, and we started getting closer together as a family and as a couple. It was just our church. I mean, they were there for us. They prayed for us. Anytime we needed prayer, and they were there to support us. Emotionally. I mean, things started changing, and God was moving. God was moving in our lives, and He had great plans.
I think that's kind of funny, Dave. We're talking about this, and you just see God moving in this, but there's a moral that we learn, and that is what those last 3 weeks before you went and served your time, God had already begun to do a healing and bring your family back together, bring your marriage back together. And it's just a reminder of, if this is the way that you will be, if you'll remain this way, you won't have to go through that extra stuff that's unnecessary in life. However, sometimes things still happen. Sometimes we're still persecuted and we go through suffering because of doing the right thing. So, I think we're just safe by saying we're just trusting God in this whole process. And so, now this takes us up to, you turn yourself in like at 5:00 at night. Just, if you would, what was it like prior to serving that time? Just the last 24 hours prior to that. What kind of emotions were you dealing with? What was your family going through?
Yeah, well, I didn't have to turn myself in until like 5 p.m. the next day. I think it was the 9th when I turned myself in. So I took the day off of work, and I just spent it with my family. I mean, we with my kids and my wife, and we played games, we watched movies, we cried, we laughed. I mean, we just enjoyed our last night together, because that was actually the last night. But yeah, I mean, we just enjoyed ourselves, and prior to this, that happened in 2018, and I fought this case for a whole year, and God was working through that year. God was doing things, was moving. He was preparing us. He was literally preparing us for what was coming, and we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if I was going to go to jail. We didn't know if I was going to get, just, smacking the hand and, okay, don't do it again. So he was preparing us. So, with that, I knew I was going to jail. I knew I was going to be serving time in jail. So, yeah, I mean, he prepared me, and he made me ready for it.
Well, you were going to miss Christmas together as your family,
Yes.
and you were supposed to miss Easter together. So those are two important, holidays that we spend together as a family that you weren't going to be part of.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Tell us about that evening that your wife and your kids took you to the county jail. What was going through your mind?
Oh man, before I turned myself in, I went to go see my parents. I went to over there and say goodbye, bye to them, and I said bye to my in-laws. My best friend actually went in with us to turn when I turned myself in. But yeah, I mean, a lot was going on through my head. I mean, at one point I was scared, worried, I was emotional. I didn't know what to expect. I mean, this is my first time ever going to jail, besides the one night that I spent in there, But
what was that first night like? Can you describe what you experienced that night?
Oh man, I mean, it was crazy. It was really crazy. I mean, as soon as I step in there and I turn my back on my family and I'm walking down the hall, I started missing them already. And
Sure.
As soon as I got pulled into the cell, my mind was already, what are they doing right now? What are they gonna eat tonight? So it was kind of crazy. It was cold. They took my shoes, they took my sweater. I was in there just, and they keep it cold for some reason. I don't know why, but it's just cold. And but out of the blue, everything turned peaceful. There was hardly anybody in there. I think there was one guy with me in the cell, and I was put in the big fish tank. They call it a fish tank. It's huge. They can fit like 20 people in there. And but I started praying. I started thanking God, because, like I said, I was so nervous and emotional before when we were sitting there in the lobby, and God spoke to me, and he's like, hey, matter of fact, he reminded me, of what he said to me 2 weeks prior to that, me turning myself in, and he was like, hey, I already told you I got this, I'm in control. You know, there's nothing to worry about. You know, you're gonna come in there. You know, it's gonna be fine. But you know, that helped me a lot that night. You know, I started thanking him, and he reminded me that he was in control. I mean, 2 weeks before this, I was a mess. 2 weeks before I turned myself in, I was a mess. I mean, I was down. I was, you know, sad. I was depressed. I mean, I was in bad shape. And I told Dave Martin, you know, I talked to him. When it happened to me, I think it was like 2 days later. I was heading to work. I woke up. I have to be at work early in the morning, so I get up like around 4:30, 5 o'clock, and you know, I pushed myself out of bed. I had to push myself out of bed because I was just didn't want to do anything. And but I pushed myself, got ready, went to work, and I did my usual routine. You know, I turned the radio on, worship music, and I was listening, you know, and just singing. But deep inside, I was a mess. I was torn. I was broken, and you know, my mind was going crazy. You know, I have these nasty thoughts, you know, and you know, I could just finish it all, you know. But I mean, that's what it looked to me. The world was falling, you know, everything was on me, and then it happened, you know. He spoke to me, and you know, he asked me, "Why are you worried about? Well, what is it that you worry about? I already told you I'm in control. You already know I'm gonna take care of you. You know, I got this. Just trust me, and you know, I'm preparing you. This is not the end of you. I'm preparing you for something more than you think." And it was amazing. I mean, everything was lifted. Everything was lifted. I mean, my depression, my sadness, everything, it was gone. It was peaceful. I felt it in my heart, and
That's awesome.
And I knew I was ready. I knew I was ready to go in jail.
So you're going into jail. You know, God has prepared your heart for probably serving Him inside of that cell, and you were trusting Him because God was getting ready to do some big things behind bars. So not only that, but God opened up a door for you in your job. Your wife and kids are now living with their mom and with her mom and dad. And yet somehow God allowed you to keep providing financially for your family. How did that happen?
You know, the first thing I told my attorney, I was like, I can't stop working. I was like, it doesn't matter what happened. If I have to serve time, I can't stop working. I can't do that. I was like, if I do, it's the end of my family, you know. And we did have money saved up, but it wasn't gonna be enough. Not the way my wife spends money, so. You know. And you know, I told him that, and he threw that into the plea bargain. You know, that if I could be granted work release, and he even told me himself, he's like, you know, there's a big chance that they're just gonna deny it. He's like, they do it all the time, you know, and you're going in there for, you know, some violent charges, you know, so they might deny it. But you know, God is bigger than our problems. It's just bigger than anything. And not just they accepted the work release, they even accepted my terms, which I'm a construction worker, so I'm out working, you know, 14-hour days, and they accepted that 5 days a week, and you know, they don't do that. They don't do that for people. They usually just grant, you know, if they grant work release, it's only like 8 hours a day, and that's it. So I'm gone like 13, 14 hours a day, plus an extra time so I can travel back and forth to my job, because I have I commute about an hour to an hour 20 minutes, you know, probably about 3 hours a day. That's my commute. And yeah, I mean, God provided. He that was another miracle that happened. You know, he promised me he was gonna provide, and he did.
Mm-hmm. You know, You said earlier that this had become a spiritual and a relational awakening for you. So what did God do in your time spent in jail?
One of the things that he did in me, he changed my heart. He was working in my heart when I was in there. Um, Growing up and even as an adult, I always, look down on criminals. I always, because I don't know. I mean, I think it's nature, human nature, but I always look down on them. I always had a bad spot for them. I mean, I love them and, but just in my mind, I was like, how can they live like this? Can they do better? I mean, what's going on with them? Why can't they just do better?
Yeah.
But, that was my heart. That was coming from the heart. And I thought it was just me in my head. I know it was coming from my heart. So the Lord, he started working my heart. I was in there and I can relate to them now. I was in there and then I can see the good in them. I became good friends with some of them and I started seeing the good in them and that's what he does. That's what God does. He sees the good in everybody and he sees the potential that they have in their lives and he opened up my eyes to see that. So, like that changed, like, within weeks, how I was like, man, I was like, why have I ever thought about these people like this? They're, these are the people that God wants. Why am I acting like that?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important, Dave, when we're talking about this. Ricardo brings up a really good point, because if we don't watch it, we're easily judging people, the ones that God says, hey, I've got a plan for their life as well.
Yeah.
So instead of judging them, why don't you pray for them, and why don't you try to relate to them, and why don't you try to be good news to them?
And, even to the point that, I'm in there with, murderers. I even believe at some point there was some child molesters in there, drug addicts. I mean, I mean, it's jail, and people go through jail before they go to prison. So everybody's in there, any kind of crime, they're in there. So, yeah, I'm seeing this and now with my changed heart, I'm like, and in the other inmates, there's politics in there. It's run by politics in there. So you see all these things happening, especially to like child molesters. It's bad for them. It's bad for them in there. I mean, nobody likes them. Nobody wants them. And me as a Christian, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. I had to see them as they are, as the creation of God, and they have hope. They God wants them, So that was just me, and I had to reach them. I had to reach out to them, so I couldn't be like everybody else in there.
You kind of became Pastor Ricardo in there to them, didn't you?
At some point I did. I mean, it was, there were so many opportunities that God gave me to reach out to them. I mean, he allowed me to be their counselor. He allowed me to be their mediator. When they couldn't agree on things, they would come up to me and, like, instead of fist fighting, and they will come up to me, what do you think about this? I'm like, well, I'm gonna tell you what the word says about it. I'm not gonna tell you what I think. I'm gonna tell you what the word says about it, and you have to take it as what God wants you. So I became a mediator for them. I mentored some of them. I became somewhat a spiritual guide, to them. They had so many questions. I mean, so many questions. I was constantly, in my free time or when I came back from work. I mean, it's like when I was at work, they were like thinking about, oh, what are we going to ask him? So I was constantly in the word looking for answers for them, because if I didn't know it, I had to look for them, and I know who had them.
That's right. That's good. That's good.
Well, how was God providing for your wife and kids during this time?
What was that?
How was God providing for your wife and kids during this time that you were away?
Oh, man. I mean, he provided everything, financially, most important, just support from everybody. I mean, we had a very supportive family. Our church family was very supportive. They prayed for us. Like I said, I think Tierra spent most of the time I was in there at pastor's house, just doing whatever she wanted. I mean, so they were a big help for them, my church family and my family. And God did that. God put us, in their path because he knew we were going to go through this, he put them in our path so they can help us.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, he provided for everything, I mean.
Well, I remember them coming over the house and, they'd eat supper with us and we'd watch some Christmas movies together. And my daughter loves your wife and then there's my wife and your wife in the kitchen and cooking and talking and laughing. And a lot of times, your kids were they were throwing stuff at me or whatever, just I'd given them a bad time. And it was cool because it was the right thing to do, to incorporate somebody else's family into your own family, because, it was a privilege to do that. Yeah. And so, because your wife was struggling, the first month was very difficult for her.
That helped them a lot. That helped
Yeah.
them a lot to get through this. I mean, yeah. I feel like I had it easy in there. I didn't have to worry about everything out here. I mean, I did, but then I didn't. But
right.
I can see the difficulties that they went through, and that helped them a lot.
Yeah. So you're supposed to serve 5 months basically, and yet your wife starts praying, and really the church starts praying that you would get out in time. And we were under COVID restrictions. We were not meeting together as a church, and Easter Sunday was getting ready to happen, and we needed our drummer back. I mean, that's just the way it was. And so, they told you that they wouldn't give you any time off early, but God made a way. And so the 5 months turned into 4 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how did that happen?
Well, before I get into it, since I was work release, I couldn't get good time. I wasn't, I couldn't apply for good time. So, and they told me that the get and go. They said, okay, you're going to get work release. You can't apply for good time. So don't even think about it, So that in my mind, I was like, okay, whatever. But I mean, I was supposed to be released on the, I think it was April 27th, so way past,
Easter, yeah.
Easter. And I ended up getting released on March 30th, I think it was. And it was amazing. I mean, I was for work. I think it was a Monday, and I didn't know nothing about it, nothing about it. And I'm at work, and I have my cell phone because my wife would charge it and she will give it to me, when she will pick me up from jail and drop me off on my cousins, and we will go to work. And I will have my cell phone with me all day long. I mean, at least when I was at work. And the sheriff's department, the county knew that I had my phone, so they called me. And I'm like, man, I was like, should I answer it? And I'm looking at my phone and I can see who they are. And I'm like, let me answer it. And so I answer, and I'm like, and they're like, hey, Ricardo. And I was like, hey. And they're like, you know who this is? I was like, yeah, yeah, what's up? He's like, are you at work? I'm like, oh yeah, definitely, I'm at work. I was at work. And so he's sitting there, and he's like, okay. He's like, well, are you sitting down? And I'm like, well, I'm on top of a bridge right now, but I can, scoot in somewhere where I'm safe. I'm like, what's up? He's like, well, he's like, it looks like when you get back in jail from work, it looks like you're going home. Said that, I'm like, wait, what? He's like, yeah. He's like, looks like you're gonna go home when you get back. I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I still got like a whole month to go. And he's like, no. He's like, all you gotta do is pay us whatever, because I had to pay every week so I can be released to go to work. So he's like, all you gotta do is pay us for the rest of the week, and you can go home. I was like, sure thing. How much do I owe you? And he tells me how much we owe, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, how did this happen? And I can just, saying, how did this happen? And it clicked. The day before, it was Sunday, and I'm sitting there Sunday night and I'm reading the word. I'm all into it, and I'm thinking of my family, thinking of church, and I sat there and I go into prayer and I ask God, I'm like, God, I know you put me here. I know this is where you want me at this moment. And I'm here. I'm doing what you wanted me to do. I'm reaching these people, because that was the plan. That's what you wanted me to reach out to these people in here. They needed to hear the word, your word, and I'm here. I was like, but God, if you are done with me here, please let me go home. Please let me go home ASAP, as soon as possible. Let me go home. And I finished the prayer, and next thing I know, the next day I'm heading home. I'm heading home. I was like, how could that be, dude? So,
that's awesome.
He answers. He listens and he answers the prayer. And I know it. I mean, he did it.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Ricardo, can you describe to us what your spiritual awakening looked like?
Like I said, I was doing bad. I was doing things that I should have never been doing. I mean, I was saved. I received the Lord into my heart, Jesus to my heart, when I was like, I think 16, and me and my wife, actually, we went to a Bible summer camp. I think that's what it's called, church camp.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I received the Lord into my heart. And so I knew, and then her dad is a pastor. So, he's been teaching me all these things, and I know these things. I know God. I know, what he wants. I know Jesus. I know what they want from me. And even then, I was, because I was doing good. But then on 2018, everything changed. There was just like a like they
turn around.
He turned around,
Yeah.
And we really feel it was when we left the church. We should have never left. I mean, we pretty much turned our backs on God. And I was, like I said, I was going back into my old me, and but he brought me back. He now I'm reading more. I mean, I'm reading the word more. I'm in tune with God a lot more. I mean, I'm in tune with my spirit a lot more. It's just amazing, all the things that he can do when you actually put the time and effort to seek his face, to seek him, and I mean, I'm doing a lot more things that I was before besides just drumming, and I mean, I feel like that was something that God wanted me to go through, and I feel like there might be some type of ministry, because I love them now. I mean, I love the inmates. I mean, I want to go there and talk to them and just give them the word that God wants them to hear. So I feel like there's a ministry there that can happen, and I think me going through all that, and I think it was the preparation that he wanted to give me for when I'm in there, ministering to them, so I can relate to them, so I don't look down on them, so I don't have that mentality and that on my heart no more. So I think, that was my spiritual awakening. He's like, hey, I'm preparing you to do something that for a long time you've been running away.
Well, and the other thing is, when you get your spiritual act together and there's awakening there, then you have relational awakening, like you were talking about. Yeah. Your marriage is stronger. Yes. You appreciate your kids more. You spend more time with them. So you've prioritized. You've made what needs to matter most a priority in your life.
Yes. Everything's pretty much set on stone. The priorities in my life now. I don't need to work. Kill myself for work now. I think working is good, but I think I did that a lot. I mean, I could overwork myself and not pay attention to my kids. I will get home tired, so I prioritize that, don't work as much, leave everything that your flesh wants and put more attention to, God and family and the church and friends and now the inmates. I mean, I still have relations with some of the inmates. They call me, and they tell me how they're doing. I'll tell them how I'm doing, and we have a conversation. We speak a little bit about God, and some of them, they're still praying. They're still doing good. Some of them, they ended up going to prison, so they're in prison. They're calling me from there, and I asked them, what can I help you guys with? And besides giving you guys a word and reassuring you guys that God's still there with you, and I'll put some money in your books too. So yeah, they're still there. They're still
that's
there.
good.
They're still calling for help.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, 10 months later, what could you say to somebody? Because the sad truth of the matter is there are a lot of people who have gone to jail or prison who went unjustly. I think Dave was talking earlier about, the whole plea agreement system is corrupt. What could you say to somebody who may be going through something similar that you went through?
They're in the right path, in the righteous path. I tell them, just hold on. God has a better plan. He's bigger than our problems. He knows what's going to happen. He knows the future, and he's preparing that person or for what's about to happen. He's going to be working in your heart. It's not going to be easy. I mean, it's not fun getting arrested. It's not fun being in there, but it's something that maybe that person needs to go through, and to me, it was an intervention. I feel like if I would have continued going on into that life that I was taking or that I was continuing, I mean, would I be able to see a turnaround? I mean, if I kept going any further, would I be dead instead of in jail? Would I be, something else worse than going to jail for 4 months? So I feel like God intervened for me. He stopped me, and it was a sudden stop. I mean, it was boom. I hit the wall. And
I believe it's Prison Fellowship that has the saying, rescued, not arrested. And so Did you kind of feel like that was the case?
Yes.
Your case? Yeah.
Yes. I mean, the way I was going, I mean, it was either dead or in jail, and then it was jail. So, he chose the better one for me. But just encourage them, just to encourage them. This is my testimony. This is what I'm gonna be testifying. This is what I'm gonna tell them whenever I go up to them, to the inmates. So, I was there once, so this is my testimony, and I'm not ashamed of it now. I'm glad it happened. I'm glad that I went through it because I can use it for the gain, of the kingdom, and I would, just tell these people, hey, you might be going through bad times, but it's all for a better, plan. I mean, even though it might not be the plan that God wanted for you in the beginning, but now it is. He's gonna change it and he's gonna use it for the better good.
Yeah, I think we need to be reminded that Jesus went through an unjust situation as well. He was accused of something that he never did, and yet his was part of the plan. And he went to the cross, and so that not that he would be rescued, but that we could be rescued. And that's just good news. Ricardo, we just want to say thank you for sharing your journey with us. And we're just so excited about your awakening and continued awakening, and the benefits that your family and yourself are going to reap, and those that come in contact with you are going to reap because you learned from this. And so, Dave, do you have any closing words you want to give to Ricardo?
Thank you very much, Ricardo. It was good to finally talk to you. I've heard your story, and it's good to talk to you tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ricardo. Well, I believe we've answered the age-old question, are two Daves better than one? Of course they are, Dave. Don't you think so?
I think so.
Hey, always, if you enjoyed this podcast, and even if you didn't enjoy it, we'd ask you to subscribe or share this podcast with your friends. And until next time, always remember, two Daves are better than one. Dave, we'll see you later.